Welcome back to Nick in Detail. I'm Nick, and in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the All Blacks and Italy game, which took place in Wellington last night. In this video, I'll give my thoughts on the game, who was my standout player, and look ahead to who's next for the All Blacks. But without further ado, let's get into today's video. The All Blacks have made it 2 from 2 in the 2026 Nations Championship, thrashing Italy 47-17 in Wellington last night. Now this result doesn't overall sum up what this game was like, but the All Blacks coming through with a big second half performance to absolutely thrash the Italians to pick up their second win from 2 games in the Nations Championship so far. But let's get my thoughts on this game. It didn't actually start all well again for the All Blacks. They conceded within the first 2 minutes, and Italy really came out and made it a competitive first half. I hope the All Blacks were once again, like they were against France, really sloppy and just unable to really create opportunities. Italy putting on the pressure, particularly in the breakdown where we saw in that first game, the All Blacks actually weren't as strong, and once again it paid to be the same dividends against Italy in that first half last night. But for Italy, they really controlled possession really well. They really created opportunities and really put it on a lot of territory on the All Blacks. But once again, the All Blacks, what we really saw was that attacking momentum that Dave really wants from this team, and overall we really saw the All Blacks come in with a pretty good couple of tries in that first half. But Italy, to be fair, very strong in that first 40 minutes. I was really impressed with how they came out, their integrity and their momentum, and the way to really put that pressure on that All Blacks team. And yeah, very much for me, making the All Blacks quite worried about how they were going to play their game in the second half. The start of the second half, though, the All Blacks were exceptional. They came out with some pretty quick tries. We really just saw a much more polished performance from the All Blacks. I think a lot more momentum, a lot more drive, and overall just a lot more tidiness compared to what we saw in Game 1 in Christchurch last weekend. But I felt like towards the end of the game, we really saw the game very much opened up. The game was pretty much done. I just thought the All Blacks probably dropped off a little bit. Italy really came back into the game quite nicely, and yeah, very much for that. Even though the scoreline suggests otherwise, I think this game was very much a very tight contest. For Italy, though, I said this in my preview, they were going to be very strong. They, of course, nearly beat Japan last week, but they've also beaten some big teams over the last year and a half, and they very much, I guess, in that first half, came pretty close to actually pretty much getting on top of the All Blacks, but the All Blacks, we just saw, opened up the game that second half and got the result in the end. Even though the scoreline suggests otherwise, this was a much closer game than what that 47-17 suggests otherwise. So who was my standout player? Well, the man that is now the all-time leading try scorer in New Zealand rugby, Will Jordan. What a performance from Will Jordan, just once again in international rugby, just coming in clutch when they need him. A hat-trick from the Tasman and Crusaders winger last night, and once again just showing his pure class he is in his All Black team and also in world rugby. There's just so much about his game, even though I thought in the first half, apart from his try he scored in that first half, don't think we really saw a whole lot of him, but very much in that second half, came to his own element, just showed the class he has been very much since his debut in 2020, and very much a hat-trick from him, meaning that he now overtakes Doug Howlett as the all-time try scorer. 50 tries now for Will Jordan in international rugby, and you'd like to think, well, I think most definitely it's going to be way more than that come the end of the year. But yes, Will Jordan, really good tries last night, a really good performance, and overall just showing the absolute class player he is. And for me, Will Jordan, my standout performer, a great performance from the now all-time leading try scorer in New Zealand rugby. So who's next for the All Blacks? Well, they will go up to Eden Park next weekend in Auckland, the Fortress, as it's otherwise known as, and they'll be taking on Ireland. Now, Ireland too, very much in that the All Blacks, not really in the form that they want to be. They only just scraped past the Wallabies in the first game last week, and came out from behind to beat Japan last night in Australia 36-20, and we very much know, I guess for Ireland, they're in a little bit of a rebuilding phase. A few players have retired, a few players are out injured. This is a relatively newish group for Ireland this year, but I think despite that, Ireland are going to come out with a lot more intent and a lot more aggression, particularly against the All Blacks and particularly at Eden Park. We know just that ground has such significant meaning in New Zealand rugby, and Ireland would very much like to change the story a bit here for the All Blacks, and very much based on their performances over the last couple of weeks, they're going to come out a lot stronger, and I think this is what will make this game really interesting. I think the All Blacks haven't been at their best the last couple of weeks. I'm still not convinced on this All Blacks team, but I know based on that start of the second half, if they can play like they did then, I certainly believe they can put on some big hefty points on Ireland, particularly with the way, I guess, that Ireland backline for me isn't quite gelling as it has been over the last few years. But this will be an absolute blockbuster game next weekend in Auckland. All Blacks against Ireland will be the final game of this first phase of the Nations Championship. So that's going to be it for me. Yeah, overall, a much better performance from the All Blacks. I think we very much know that first game for the All Blacks always is a bit of a rust fair. It's very much shaking off that rust, getting that momentum and chemistry together in the team. We saw it much more better in this game last night, but I think overall in terms of team, I think we probably won't see too many changes. I relatively think there might only be a couple. Josh Morby was exceptional off the bench. I think he's well and truly put his name in the hat to be a starting player next week, or more notably, especially coming off the bench next week. Personally, in hooker, I'm not really seeing Cody Taylor yet. I think very much he probably needs to be one that needs to be considered to be taken out of the team. I thought Semasoni Takilaho was superb off the bench last night. For me, he should probably come into that number 2 jersey. Just brought a lot more physicality, momentum in that breakdown. I personally think someone like a Safo Amua with the absolute tank he is also needs to come into this team as well. But overall, I don't think there'll be too many changes in this team for their game against Ireland next weekend. But for me, that's going to be it. And until next time, I'll see you later.